So I want to talk to you today about how to cross over from break-even trader to profitable. I'm going to use some examples from my own trading journey, like some of the mental blocks that I had to overcome. And I think this is going to be immensely powerful in helping you break through to your own profitability. If you're still here and still watching this series, or even if you haven't seen episode 1 or 2 yet, you're probably past the stage of blindly trying strategies and trying to figure this thing out. I'm sure you've already put in the time, you've already fine-tuned a few things. You've probably had moments where it felt like it was just about to click, but then it just didn't. This episode is for that exact moment. It's not going to be about charts or setups. It's about that moment where you start asking yourself, why does this feel harder than it should? Because for me, that question had very little to do with the actual market and almost everything to do with who I was bringing to the screens each day. When I look back at my own journey, this part took me a lot longer than I expected. And it's not because I wasn't capable or that I didn't work hard. If anything, I worked too hard, but in the wrong ways. Now, I came from a background in construction, and when you grow up in that world, money is simple. You show up, you work hard, you get paid. The harder the day, the more justified the money feels. There's no uncertainty there. You can just point to the effort and say, that's why I earned this. Trading doesn't work like that, and that disconnect messed with me more than I even realized. Early on, every trading day was being subconsciously measured against construction. If I lost $500, my brain didn't see it as a statistical outcome. It saw it as an entire day of labor erased. That made losses feel so much more personal than they ever should have been. But the more damaging part wasn't the losing days, it was actually the winning ones. I had this invisible ceiling in my head, a number that felt reasonable based on what I could make doing physical labor. And once I hit that number, I'd shut down. I'd take profits early, I'd flatten trades but still had room to work, not because the market told me to, but because my identity did. I didn't trust money that didn't come from physical effort, and that belief slowed my growth in ways I couldn't even imagine. So here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. Trading doesn't just require you to learn a new skill. It asks you to confront all your beliefs about money. If you've spent most of your life earning money doing physical work, trading can feel almost illegitimate. Like it's cheating, or like it shouldn't count, or like it's too good to be true. That voice doesn't mean you're weak, but it means you're rewiring something deep inside. For me, that rewiring took years, and even now that voice hasn't completely disappeared. It just doesn't get to make the decisions anymore. Another thing that held me back was trust. Not trust in the market, trust in myself. Looking back, I could see that I was technically proficient much earlier than I thought. I could read price, I could anticipate behavior, I could even see when things were about to shift. But I didn't allow myself to act on that. I stayed in what I call good student mode for far too long. Always trying to trade the way that I thought you should trade instead of how I naturally traded. And on the surface, that looks like discipline. In reality though, it's actually fear of ownership. Because once you start modifying systems and once you start trading with your own instincts, there's no one else to turn to if things go wrong. That responsibility was heavier than I realized. So naturally, I'm a scalper. I always have been. That's just how my brain works. I see short-term price action clearly, and I'm comfortable making quick decisions. I'm good at reacting in the moment. But instead of embracing that, I spent a very long time trying to fight it. I tried to slow myself down, tried to force myself into styles that looked cleaner, more respectable, more proper. But they didn't fit me. And the more I tried to force that fit, the more trading felt like friction. The shift happened when I stopped trying to be a different trader and started building structure around who I already was. That didn't make me reckless, it made me honest. And honesty is a prerequisite for consistency. So something similar happened to me with prop firms. I had my own ideas on how to trade them. Ideas that went against what most people were saying at the time. I was told I was too conservative, too patient, and that couldn't possibly work. And for a while, I questioned myself, and I think that's perfectly normal. When you're early in your journey, doubt feels louder. But the logic made sense to me and I stayed with it. Over time, those ideas proved themselves, and now I see more traders arriving at the same conclusions. That experience taught me something important. You don't need consensus to be right, you just need your own alignment. Alignment with your logic, your temperament, and your risk tolerance. That alignment is what allows you to stay consistent long enough to let those results compound. So my background in construction helped me in a lot of ways with trading. I didn't shy away from hard work. I studied obsessively, and I didn't quit when things got uncomfortable. But that same work ethic did become a problem. Because in trading, people often think working harder means trading more hours, more trades, more exposure. and more emotional wear and tear. I had to learn that restraint is work, the waiting, not clicking, protecting your mental state. Now that's the real work. The adjustment didn't come natural to me, it had to be learned, slowly and painfully. But before I wrap this up, I want to say something quickly. If any part of this series resonated with you, just know this. Sometimes one honest conversation can completely change the trajectory of your trading. So I do offer one-on-one calls through my website. Not because I'm protective of this information, but because I only want to share the deeper stuff with traders who I actually think are hungry to do the work. I'm not scared to share how exactly I trade or how I think, and the true nuances of my strategy. I just don't believe that belongs scattered freely to people who aren't ready to apply it. So if you feel serious and want some clarity rather than just noise, shoot me an email on my site and we'll chat. And if not, that's completely fine too. I know this series is going to help you on your trading journey. So, how did I actually break down these limiting beliefs and behaviors? For starters, I tried to go to as many events as I could. Not to say there was a ton, and I feel like good traders are actually really hard to find. But when you get in the room with these guys, and I've spent some time with some of the big ones, it completely rewires your brain. How they viewed risk and money was so out of scope, I had no choice but to expand my mind. I swear, sometimes it seemed like we weren't even living on the same planet. It was a true inspiration, because at the end of the day, I didn't get into trading just to replace my job. I got into trading for those exponential gains that we all dream of, and this was a great start. So the meetups were big, but putting in the mental work was also a big pillar for me. I don't know if I'm a full-on meditation and visualization guy, but believe me, it certainly didn't hurt. I did set some pretty exciting goals, and I actually achieved them on a pretty similar timeline to what I had envisioned. So, do with that information what you will. Third and finally, I was listening to a podcast one time about Rob Dyrdek. I always looked up to him the way he turned skateboarding into a massive enterprise, a feat I didn't even think was possible. And in the true spirit of woo-woo and meditation, he said one of the most powerful turning points in his career was when he actually got hypnotized for success. So I figured, what's the harm? I sought out one of the best hypnotists in my area and did just that. I don't know if this was an instant remedy, but I can say with certainty that after that I was able to control my emotional state during my trades with a very noticeable difference, and the profits started to roll in. Another byproduct of this therapy was that I had never planned on doing YouTube, but in the sessions it became pretty apparent that I should share some of this knowledge that I worked so hard to obtain. So I guess if you like my channel and it's helping your trading, you can thank my hypnotist. There's one more thing I want to talk about, because a lot of traders think this but rarely say it out loud. For me, even after years of trading and even after making money, there's still a part of me that finds the trading lifestyle hard to fully accept. Like it's unrealistic, like it shouldn't be possible to earn all this without physical labor. I've even had a 6-figure month in construction, which is absolutely unheard of given the size of my operation, but that still made more sense to me. That felt real. Trading challenged something deeper, not logically, but emotionally. And that doesn't mean trading isn't real, it just means my identity takes time to catch up to my reality. If you're trying to be profitable, this is what matters more than you think. Don't try to be someone else. Stop forcing a style that doesn't fit, and stop trying to trade the way you think a real trader should trade. Start understanding yourself well enough to build a process that works with you rather than against you. Episode 1 was about recognizing where you are. Episode 2 is about execution, and this episode is about alignment. Because when the trader behind the screen fully aligns with how they trade, things stop being forced, and that's usually where consistency starts showing up. This has taken you longer than you expected. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're just working through the hardest part of this journey, and truthfully, there is no shortcut. And if you're still here and still refining, trust me when I say you're closer than you think. So I try to make every new video as engaging and beneficial for you guys. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.